Let me see if I can get. All right, hallelujah. Saints to the Most High. Let's see. Today, I want to talk a little bit about this new year and what this new year means. And for those that are new, I want to have this explanation because the Ema Norvell, she had asked me about what this number meant. And we had it on our Passover. And it made me be reminded that, saints, we've taught so much of this Bible and so much of this word until we have just gone on and just taught so much. So sometimes we forget we have new people among us. So we have to sort of bring them up to speed to where they could have some understanding and some teaching and some clarity on some of the things that we have in their midst that they just might not know anything about. So let's talk about 5783 so that we can understand that this is the Hebrew New Year. This is the Hebrew New Year. Matter of fact, in different countries, they use different calendars. And so the Hebrew calendar is 5783. In Nepal, they got a calendar that they use, and in their calendar, it's 2080. Can you believe that? Go look that up, Nepal's New Year. And Nepalese, it's 2080 according to their calendar, 2080. Then they got an Islamic calendar. I think it's 1447 and 1448, either or. But they have different calendars that different countries and different religious groups use. So this is the Hebrew calendar, and the year is 5783 according to the Hebrew calendar. So let's talk about what this calendar is. You can sort of understand what it is by my hitting there that says speak life, speak life, speak life. So it has something to do with speaking. And so let's find out what this is all about, because it's important that we bring the people up to speed. Hallelujah. Happy New Year to Israel. We've been in our new year for quite some time, but we want to still say Happy New Year to all of the Israelites, because we're still in the month of Abib. And in Exodus 12:2, it says, this month shall be unto you the beginning of months, and it shall be the first month of the year to you, to the Israelites, to the ones who have gotten all of this promises, services, and all of the commandments. This is all for the Israelites, and he's letting us know that the month of Abib is going to be the first month for us. And so this is what we know, and this is what we understand. All right. During the previous decade, 5770 to 5779, in the Hebrew calendar, the number for each of the years end in the 70. So as you see the graph on the bottom, you see 5770, and then you see the corresponding year would have been 2010. 5771, you see 2011, on and so forth. 5772, you see 2012. 5773, you see 2013, and on and so forth, all the way up to 5779 is 2019. So this is how the year of the Hebrew calendar corresponds with this Roman Greco calendar. Okay, this is how it corresponds. This is what year it is according to the Greco-Roman calendar that we use. And the Hebrew calendar, you can see how different it is. But nevertheless, the previous decade before we got to the 5780, it was the 5770s. And all of these years corresponded with a certain year in the Gregorian calendar. Now in the Hebrew, the letters and numbers mean something. Letters and numbers mean something in the Hebrew. And 70 is represented by the letter IN. IN. Over to the left, you see the modern spelling of IN. And then in the Paleo Hebrew, which is the Paleo is what came first, and that was our father's alphabet, you see that the IN looks like a I. It looks like an I. It's a circle, but it looks like an eye. The modern Hebrew don't look nothing like an eye. It looks more like a Y almost, you know. That's what the modern Hebrew sort of looks like. But the Paleo Hebrew, it literally looks like an eye. It's a circle. This letter is called Ayin, and it is one of the several letters in the Hebrew alphabet whose spelling and pronunciation happens also to correspond to the Hebrew word. In other words, it sounds and it is pronounced just like the word, which is Ayin, which lets you know that it's representing the eye. Are y'all hearing that today? So the Ayin represents the eye. It sounds and it's pronounced like you can understand what the meaning of it is. Ayin is representative of the eye. The 16th letter of the Hebrew alphabet, the Ayin, also spelled the Hebrew word for eye. Okay, that's why it looks like a circle like that, the Paleo Hebrew. And I probably got to go over Paleo letters too. Man, so much to know, and so much to learn, so much to bring everybody up to speed on. But nevertheless, the Ayin also spells the Hebrew word for eye. Okay. So throughout the past decade, our minds have been repeatedly reminded, continuously drawn to the importance and the necessity of seeing, of looking with heavenly or spiritual vision. That's what the whole 70s, in other words, that's the whole 2010 to 2019. We were all being told and focused on the importance of seeing, the importance of the I am, okay? Thus, you heard a lot of people coming up with slogans in 2020 saying perfect vision, perfect vision. Why? Because we went through an entire decade with the year in the 70s, 71, 72, 73, 74, 5, 76, 77, 78, 79. We have been reminded all of that entire decade to focus on what we see, focus on the eye or the ayin or the eyes, and or to look with a spiritual meaning and a spiritual purpose behind that entire decade. So thus in 2020, you could say something like perfect vision. Are y'all following that today? So we have now shifted into the Hebrew calendar year of 5783, 5783. And the corresponding would be the same way. 2020 would be 5780. So when we shifted and moved into 2020, we were shifting from the eye into the beginning of the decade of the 80s, or with the last two numbers representing 80, 81, 82, 83, and on and so forth. Okay. The Hebrew letter for 80s is the word or pronounced pay or pa, pay. Besides spelling the 17th letter of the alphabet pay, it is also the Hebrew word for mouth. Now y'all see the way this, let me see if I have this highlighter or a pointer. Can I use this pointer here? No. Y'all see how the pay looks, right? Can y'all see my mouse? Yes, no?
Yes, we can see your mouse.
Okay, yes, this is the letter pay, okay? And then down here, you can see how pay is representative for the mouth. Y'all following that? So pay, the 17th letter of the alphabet, is also the Hebrew word for mouth, okay? So we will move from a decade which drew attention to the eye into 10 years of awakening and awareness of the mouth. That's what decade we're in now, where now we're being awakened to the awakening on awareness of the mouth. And over to the left, we have the AN or the IN, and then we have on the right, we have the pay, which is the mouth. And when you understand the eyes and the mouth are a pair, they are connected. Your eyes, what you see, will declare what is in your mouth. When you begin to see something, if you see something that's frightening, if you see something that makes you nervous, you're going to say something out of your mouth. And what this is showing us is that these two things are a pair and they work with one another. The eyes and the mouth, the eyes and the mouth. The eyes represent YHWH watching over us, and the mouth representing YHWH speaking to us. Are y'all hearing that today?
Yes.
IN. He's watching over us because the eyes of YHWH are in what? Every place, beholding the evil and the good. And not only does YHWH watch over us, but also YHWH speaks to us. And that's what we're coming into the decade of, this understanding of the mouth. Not only do YHWH speak to us, but we speak the word of YHWH. So there again, we have this dual combination. And so we have entered the decade of declaring the word that YHWH is declaring to us. We hear, therefore we speak. We hear his word, we understand his word, and then we begin to declare his word to other people and begin to share what YHWH has shared with us. And we speak life. If YHWH is speaking life to us, we speak life to others. Can y'all follow that here?
Yes.
Okay. Over here to the left, we have the pay. That's what it looks like. And then we have the word hey, 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 or he. Okay. Let's talk about this for a moment. The hey deals with a mouth. It deals with breath. It deals with spirit, and it deals with revelation. That's what the word hey is. It's the mouth, just like pay is the mouth. But the only difference is the hey deals with breathing or breath. It deals with spirit, and it deals with revelation. The pay, on the other hand, it deals with the mouth, but it also deals with speech. It deals with the spoken word, or it deals with the testimony. And so the pay is dealing with your mouth, is dealing with speech, and is dealing with the spoken word and your testimony. The hey is also dealing with the mouth, but it's dealing with breathing or breath, which is ruah, which is spirit. Ruah is spirit, and then revelation. So we got pay and we got hey. And you have to know the difference between the two. Hey, that's the way the hey looks, and that's the way the pay looks. And one of them deals with speech, the spoken word, a testimony. The other one deals with breathing, breath, spirit, and revelation. The hey on the right is breathing, which has been drawn down. And when the breath has been drawn down, when you exhale, it sits in the seat of your emotions. It's because the hey is coming from the spirit. And when the spirit is beginning to breathe and beginning to speak and beginning to talk, it first touches our heart and then it touches our will. The breath, the ruah, it sits in it. When we exhale or inhale or exhale, then it sits in the seat of our emotion, and the spirit first touches our heart, then it touches our will. With the pay, on the other hand, once the hey have begun to do the things it has done, the pay deals with the spoken word. It deals with an upward upload to our minds, where the word is stored in our minds. And as we trust in the word, as we confess that word, as we begin to proclaim that word, and we trust that word, we begin to speak that word to others. So the hay is breath, which is drawn down, and it sits in the seats of our emotions. It begins to move across our emotions, because the spirit, when it comes, it first touches our heart, then it touches our will. But the pay, on the other hand, it deals with the spoken word. The spoken word. The spoken word now is beginning to be uploaded in your mind. Why? Because as faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of Yah. And as that word is being stored into your mind, as you begin to believe that word and begin to operate on that word and apply that word to your life, a trust then begins to be developed. A trust, a confident trust begins to be developed, where you begin to speak this word to other people. Are y'all seeing that today?
Yes.
Hallelujah.
Yes. Amen.
As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. As you think in your heart, that's what you're going to do. As you think in your heart, as you think in your mind, that's what you're actually going to begin to move on. As you're thinking about things, as you're pondering on things, as you're meditating on things, that's what you really are. You're a sum total of what you're thinking. You're sum total of what you're meditating on. You're subtotal you're of what is in your mind as you're hearing the word being taught and preached. It's being stored up in your mind. And as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. So let's go over the word here so that we can get a clear understanding of what this word is saying and what this word is speaking and what it's declaring unto us today. Brother Leo, are you on the phone line tonight or this afternoon, brother? Brother Leo? Okay, maybe he's not on. Maybe he's not on. Okay. Somebody just got on right now. Shabbat Shalom, whoever that was. I don't know who it was that just got on. Exodus chapter 3, it says, now Moses kept the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian, and he led the flock to the backside of the desert and came to the mountain of YHWH, even to Horeb. And the angel of YHWH appeared unto him in a flame of fire out of the midst of the bush. And he looked, and behold, the bush was burning with fire, and the bush was not consumed. And Moses said, I will now turn aside and see this great sight, why the bush is not burnt. And when YHWH saw that he turned aside to see, that's where we get that Hebrew letter. What did we say this Hebrew letter was, class? Anybody? Anybody? What is it? What is it?
Iron.
It's the ayin. It's the ayin. Excellent. This is the ayin. This is the word to see. This is the I, to see. It says, when YHWH saw that Moses turned aside to see this burning bush, or to see why this bush that was burning was not being consumed, that's the ayin. Okay. So now we see the I in work, because the eye and the mouth are we're going to see them in this story working together. It says, and YHWH called unto him out of the midst of the bush, and said, Moses, Moses. And he said, here I am. What do y'all see? What did we say this letter was? Anybody? What's this letter?
Hey.
The breath, speak.
The breath. There you go. It's the hay. It's the hay. So YHWH. So we got the eye that he saw. Now we got, and we saw Moses. He was looking, and YHWH was looking. You see that? Moses was looking at the burning bush burning and was wondering why it wasn't being consumed. And then when he turned aside to go check it out, then YHWH looked at him, turning aside, paying attention to what he was looking at. So we got the ayin. Now we have the hay. We have this breath, because we know that YHWH is a what? Come on, class. What is YHWH? Is he a man, or is YHWH a spirit?
Spirit.
Yahweh is a spirit, which means he's the breath. He's the ruach, the set apart spirit. And Yahweh called unto him out of the midst of the bush and said, Moses, Moses. And he said, here I am. See, the spirit is talking now. And he said, draw not nigh hither. Put off thy shoes from off thy feet, for the place whereon thou standest is holy ground. Moreover, he said, I am Yahweh of thy fathers, the Elohim, the mighty one of Abraham, the mighty one of Isaac, the mighty one of Jacob. And Moses hid his face, for he was afraid, look at what it says, to look upon Yahweh. So I guess Moses got a chance to see what Yahweh looked like, because he definitely was afraid, the scripture says, to look upon him. Look at what it says. And Yahweh said, I have surely seen the affliction of my people. So if he said, I seen the affliction of my people, what's that word again? What's that Hebrew letter called?
Hey.
Nope.
I
I am. That's right. I have surely seen the afflictions of my people, which are in Egypt, and I have heard their ears by reason of their taskmasters, for I know their sorrow. Okay. And I am come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians, and to bring them up out of the land unto a good land and a large, unto a land flowing with milk and honey. So it was always the Father's will to bring us into our own land, saints. Same thing. They were in captivity, and it was the Father's will. After he heard their groaning, he heard their prayers, he heard their cries, he saw their affliction, being oppressed by the Egyptians. And he said, I've come to bring you into a large, into a land flowing with milk and honey, into your own land, unto the place of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Havites, and the Jebusites. He said, that's what I'm bringing you into. So y'all see the pay, because Yahweh is speaking now. He's speaking, and he's speaking, and Moses is able to hear the voice of Yahweh. So this is the territory of the Canaanites. This is the territory of the Canaanites, and this is what Yahweh was bringing the children of Israel in. He was bringing them into their own land, which was a large land, which was a land that was flowing with milk and honey. It was a glorious land. And we already know the story of how Canaan went in and took the land. So here are the children of Israel divided into that land. You see the children of Israel's names there: Simeon, Judah, Dan, Manasseh, Asher. Here are them after they have overcome and taken that land. This is what the land, with the children of Israel being divided amongst the tribes. This is what the land mass looked like. Okay. Now, therefore, behold, the cries of the children of Israel is come unto me, and I have also seen the oppression wherein the Egyptians oppressed them. So just like they were oppressing the Israelites then, we're being oppressed in this time. Now, is Yahweh, is he the same?
Yeah.
Yes.
What did he say? He said he's the same yesterday,
Today
today,
and
and he's going
forever.
to be the same tomorrow, right? Forevermore, he's going to be the same. So if he was able to see the children of Israel crying in Egypt land, being oppressed by the Egyptians, how many people know and understand he hears and sees the cries of the children of Israel in modern day, in Egypt number 2? He hears our cry. He see how we're being oppressed. He see how we're being gunned down and killed. And the person that did it is going not guilty. In other words, you can't even lay that to their charge, because they're killing us and not even being charged as a crime for it, but nevertheless, the same cries and the same oppression that Yahweh saw the Egyptians bring upon the children of Israel is the same type of oppression that we have, and the Father sees that as well. So let's not be deceived, knowing that the Father saw them then, he's seeing us now, because he is the same yesterday, today, and forevermore. Verse 10, it says, come now, therefore, and I will send thee unto Pharaoh, that thou mayest bring it forth my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt. It's so interesting that Yahweh knew exactly who his people were. He knew that his people were the children of Israel, and he knew who was oppressing them and who were their enemies. He knew that the Egyptians at that time were their enemies. And he knew that he was going to be bringing them into a land that had even more enemies in it. Are y'all hearing that today? So the Father he understands the dynamic of every situation. And again, this is the pay. This is Yahweh talking. And Moses said unto Yahweh, who am I that I should go unto Pharaoh, and that I should bring forth the children of Israel out of Egypt? A lot of us feel that way. Who am I? Who am I to do such a task? Who am I to be a leader? Who am I to be someone who proclaims your word with my mouth? Who am I to get into the fight of liberating our people who have been oppressed? Who am I to study this word and to apply it to my life? Who am I to be the one that actually cares enough and does something about the condition of my people? Who am I? A lot of people feel that way. That's been called. Let's skip on down to verse 18. It says, and they shall hearken to thy voice, and thou shalt come, thou and the elders of Israel, unto the king of Egypt, and ye shall say unto him, Yahweh, your Elohim, the Elohim of the Hebrews, the mighty one of the Hebrews, has met with us. And now let us go, we beseech thee, 3 days' journey into the wilderness, that we may sacrifice to Yahweh our Elohim. In other words, they wanted to go into the wilderness so that they can keep the feast of Yahweh, because the feast that they were talking about was the feast we already know, Passover, unleavened bread. They were going into those feasts of the Most High. So that's what they told the Pharaoh. They wanted to go 3 days journey into the wilderness, that we may sacrifice to Yahweh our mighty power. He says, and I am sure that the king of Egypt will not let you go, no, not by a mighty hand. And I will stretch out my hand and smite Egypt with all of my wonders, which I will do in the midst thereof. And after that, he will let you go. He's going to let you go after I smite Egypt with some things and show them some wonders. He's going to let you go. Know that. Verse 21, it says, and I will give this people favor in the sight of the Egyptians. That's what we have to know, saints, that we're in the season of favor. Are y'all hearing that today? We're in the season of favor, where the Father is going to favor his children, going to favor us in the midst and in the sight of the Egyptians, or in the sight of the Americans. And it says, it shall come to pass that when ye go out of the land, when you go, ye shall not go empty. In other words, you came in here and worked for 430 years for the Egyptians for no money, for no pay. You don't think for 1 minute that I'm going to let the Egyptians not pay you. No, you're not going to leave out of that land without what's due or what's owed to you. Are y'all hearing that? And neither are we going to go out of this land empty-handed. It says, but every woman shall borrow of her neighbor and of her that sojourneth in her house. You're going to borrow jewels of silver and jewels of gold and raiment. Are y'all hearing that? They said, go get the, Yahweh said, go get the bling bling, baby. Go get the bling bling. No, don't get the Skechers. Don't go get that. Don't get the scale. Don't go get the bottom of the barrel brand. He said, no, you go get the silver, and you go get the gold, and you go get the raiments that have the silver and the gold on it. That's what I want y'all to go get. Are y'all hearing that today?
Yes.
He says, and ye shall put them on your sons and upon your daughters, and ye shall spoil the Egyptians. So in other words, they were commanded to go get the spoils, or get the gold and the silver that the Egyptians had on them, and to put it on their sons, and put that gold and silver on their daughters. And in the fact of them doing that, there would be a supernatural transference of wealth. The wealth of the wicked come on, y'all, is stored up for the righteous. In other words, there's wicked people in this earth that has hoarded all kind of wealth, all kind of material wealth. And now, even in this time and in this season, whether you believe this or not, saints, there is a wealth transfer. I'm not talking like Christian preachers talking about the gospel of prosperity. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about for Hebrews and for Israelites and for the saints of the Most High, those that want to sojourn and join themselves with us. There's a great wealth transfer happening right in our midst, where the spoils and the wealth of the wicked, it has been laid up for the righteous, and the wealth of the wicked, they're releasing that wealth. That wealth is coming back into the hands of the true Israelites. Hallelujah. Woo-wee. I'm preaching better than y'all saying hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Exodus chapter 4, it says, and Moses answered and said, but, ain't that something? The father then told him all that good stuff, but here's Moses, he got a but. But behold, they will not believe me, nor hearken unto my voice, for they will say, YHWH has not appeared unto you. There we have the I am, and there we have the pay. We got him worried if they're going to believe or hearken unto his voice. And there we have his eye saying, they ain't gonna even believe I seen you. They ain't gonna believe it. See, that's what I understand and know. The things that I know and understand, I've been on phone calls with all this week. If I told y'all on this call right now, y'all wouldn't believe me. Y'all wouldn't believe me. So I keep it to myself. So we got the pay, the mouth. You see that? Look at what it says. And YHWH said unto me, what is that in thy hand? And he said, it's a rod. I got a rod in my hand. That's all I got is a rod in my hand. And he said, cast it on the ground. And he cast it on the ground, and it became a serpent. And Moses fled from before. Can you imagine that? He threw down the stick, it became a serpent, and Moses ran from the stick the rod that he just had in his hand, because it turned into a snake. Moses was out of here. He ran away from it. Oh my goodness, what has happened? See, that's what happens when we truly see a miracle. We start literally being so afraid of what the Father is going to do that we end up running away from what the Father is doing. He's showing us supernatural things. And instead of us running to it and embracing it and loving it and running into it with all our heart, mind, and soul, we get fearful and we run away from it. I wonder, am I talking to somebody here?
Yes.
It says, YHWH said unto Moses, put forth thy hand and take it by the tail. And he put forth his hand, a little probably being intimidated, being nervous, but nevertheless, he put forth his hand and caught it, and it became a rod in his hand. Wow. Wow. It became a rod. The rod that he had in his hand, it became just like that. So when you think Moses grabbed that serpent by the tail and it became a rod, do you think Moses probably started feeling a little bit confident about what YHWH was doing? Because this YHWH is not just about a bunch of talk, but he's about action. And he said, I've put my word above myself. He said, my word has already been settled and established in the heavenly realms. It's already been written. It's already been declared. I declared the end from the beginning. Are y'all hearing that today?
Yes.
When Moses grabbed this serpent by the tail, do you think he started getting a little bit more confident? Like, hold on now. Okay. Maybe they will believe me. Maybe they will hearken unto me. Look what happened. He says that they may believe that YHWH of your fathers, the YHWH of Abraham, YHWH of Isaac, and the YHWH of Jacob has appeared unto you. He said, I'm doing this for you, Moses, to show that they're going to believe that Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, I'm their Elohim, I'm their mighty one, I'm their mighty power has appeared unto thee. He said, let me have you do something else, Moses. And Yahweh said furthermore unto him, put now thy hand into thy bosom. So Moses took his hand and put it in his bosom. And when he took it out, behold, his hand was leprous as snow. What color is snow, saints?
White.
So that means if Moses put his hand in his cloak, and if he had already been white and his hand turned as white as snow, if he had really looked like Charleston Heston, then what would be miraculous about that? Are y'all following me? So
Yes.
obviously his body had to look different from the hand that he just pulled out of his cloak. His hand was white or as leopard as snow. And we know snow to be white.
Yes.
And he said, put thy hand into thy bosom again. And he put his hand into his bosom again and plucked it out of his bosom. And behold, it was turned again as his other flesh. So I guess Moses was not white as snow, but I guess Moses must have been a brother of color. He must have had some dark pigmentation. He must have had some melanin in his skin, because when it turned as white as snow, he said, oh no, this ain't what it's supposed to look like, my hand. So he had to put that thing back in his bosom, and then it turned again as his other flesh. And that was considered a miracle. This is why this is in the scriptures, to let us know what was going on. You won't hear no Sunday preacher preach that though. You won't hear no white evangelical talk about that story. They'll talk about the one with the rod coming and turning into a serpent, but they will not talk about this story right here. But this was the other sign that he was doing so that he would know that they would believe him, that he had seen Yahweh. Are y'all hearing that today?
Yes.
He was building up his faith. And it shall come to pass, if they will not believe thee, neither hearken to the voice of the first sign. What was the first sign, saints? What was the first sign that he did for Moses?
Rod.
He threw the rod down and he turned it to a snake. He said, if they don't believe the voice of the first sign, then they definitely gonna believe the voice of the latter sign, that a black man's hand turned white. And it turned back into its regular color. Are y'all hearing that? He said they don't believe the first one. They definitely gonna believe that latter sign, Jack. Are y'all hearing that today?
Yes.
Hallelujah. And Moses said unto Yahweh, oh my Yahweh, I am not eloquent. He's still after all that. He said, I'm not eloquent, neither hitherforth, nor since thou hast spoken unto thy servant, but I am slow of speech, and I am a slow tongue. This is where they say Moses had a stuttering problem here, because he said, I'm of slow speech and I'm of slow tongue. Can y'all see that Hebrew letter? What's that Hebrew letter called?
He.
Anybody?
Sir.
What's it called?
Is that the he and the hay or the peg?
Hey.
Y'all tell me, which one is it? It's the pay. It's the pay. Because the pay has to do with, what are we talking about in this sentence?
The mouth.
There you go. But I am slow of speech and I am slow of tongue. So he's letting you know, hey man, says I got a problem with my mouth. And look at that. And Yahweh said unto him, who has made man's mouth? Or who maketh the dumb or the deaf or the seeing or the blind? Have not I Yahweh? Again, what letter do we got there?
Pay.
We got the pay, because he's dealing with man's mouth. So he says, now therefore go, and I will be with your pay. I will be with your mouth, and I will teach thee what thou shalt say. I'm going to teach you, Moses. Don't be weary. Don't be nervous. Don't be anxious. I'm going to teach you exactly what you need to say. Pay, from the word, meaning mouth, in the way that speaks. not eats, but is the way that speaks. This is the pay is dealing with speech. Are y'all hearing that today? It says, and it shall be for a sign unto thee upon thy hand and for a memorial between thy eyes. Remember, the I word is what? I am. That Yahweh's laws may be in thy what? Pay, thy mouth. For with a strong hand has Yahweh brought thee out of Egypt. So y'all learned 2 Hebrew words today. Y'all actually learned 3 Hebrew words today. What are the 3 Hebrew words that y'all have learned today so far?
Hey, hey, I.
Woo! Well, if I had a gold star, I would give it to you.
I think I'm paying attention.
If I had a little cookie, I would give it to you. If I had an award, I would give it to you. Excellent. So y'all have learned 3 Hebrew words. Y'all have learned the pay, y'all have learned the hey, and y'all have learned the I am. Y'all have learned the eyes. Y'all have learned what represents the mouth. And y'all also learned what represents the mouth, but dealing with the spirit or the breath and the revelation. Okay? So that's good. So let me give you some points. Yahweh made your mouth. Yahweh that will teach you what to say. And it's Yahweh that has given us something to say. And that something that we say is his word, is his Torah. This is what we declare. This is what we will speak. This is what we will say. This in our speech. We will have his word in our mouth. Are y'all hearing that today? You got to have his word in your mouth. Okay. What we declare with our mouths is what we speak, and what we say will be a key for victory and for advancing the kingdom. So you can mess up the kingdom. You can mess up at the advancing of the kingdom based on what you allow to come out of your mouth. Think about that, saints. Think about that, saints. See, Yeshua, even though he was Yeshua, which means salvation, Yah is my salvation, he didn't preach salvation. He preached the kingdom of Yahweh is at hand. So what was his main message? His main message was talking to us about a kingdom, bringing us into the kingdom. The kingdom of Yahweh is at hand. Repent, for the kingdom of Yahweh is at. That's what he kept on saying, and that was his message. Repent, for the kingdom of Yah is at hand. The kingdom is coming close. The kingdom is about a king and a kingdom, and about his people being in this kingdom, a priest, a holy priesthood, a holy nation, a set apart people. And what we say will affect the advancing of that kingdom. Because there was a time where the priests wouldn't say much. This is why Enoch, if you ever read the story of Enoch, it says that after a while, the people stopped seeing Enoch. They were seeing him every day. Then all of a sudden, as he got closer and closer with Yahweh and closer with him, they started seeing him once a week, then once a month, then once a year, then once every few years. They wouldn't see him often. Why? Because anything that Enoch said would come to pass. Are y'all hearing that to me? He said, Yeshua said it the best. He said, there's going to be people that's going to speak to the mountain and tell the mountain to be cast into the sea, and it will obey you. Are y'all hearing that today?
Yes.
So what we speak and what is coming out of your mouth, you need to be careful what you say and what you speak, because what you speak and what you say, you're going to have what you say.
Yes.
And what you say, if it's not lining up with that book, it's going to hinder some advancement of the kingdom in your life. Let me prove my point about our words being so effective and doing things. And what we do is effective when we begin to speak. This is the Tower of Babel here in Genesis chapter 11. Look at what Yahweh said in Genesis 11:5. It says that Yahweh came down to see the city and the tower, which the children of men built. And Yahweh said, behold, the people is one, and they have all one language. And this they begin to do. And now nothing will be restrained from them, which they have imagined to do. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. When you begin to think about things, the next thing is you begin to say those things you're thinking about. You begin to say those things and talk about those things that you're thinking about that's on your mind. You begin to say, man, I had a dream. I had a vision. I think I want to do this. And you start voicing the things that you think about. So this is letting you know that nothing would be impossible to them or what they imagine, because whatever they begin to imagine, they're going to automatically begin to speak it. Boy, I'm preaching in here.
Amen. Yeah.
All
Hallelujah.
right. Joshua 1:8, look at what it says. It says, this book of the law shall not depart out of thy mouth, but thou shalt meditate therein day and night, that thou mayest observe to do according to all that is written therein. For then thou shalt make thy way prosperous, and then thou shalt have good success. Come on, Sister Lori, read that again. Read what I just read again. I want to hear it again. Read it again, sister.
The book of the law shall
This
not,
book. Come on, read it again.
the book of the law shall not depart out of thy mouth,
Come on.
but thou shalt meditate therein day and night, that thou mayest observe to do according to all that is written therein. For then thou shalt make thy way prosperous, and then thou shalt have good success.
So this is telling us something. It's saying this book of the law, not any kind of book, but no, this book, this Bible, this book called Torah, this book of the law shall not depart out of thy out of thy mouth. The Hebrew word used here for meditate is hagah, which means literally to utter, to mutter, to make a sound, even means to moan or to groan. Woo-wee. When he talks about meditating, he said, I want you to utter, mutter, I want you to make a sound, I want you to even moan and groan or growl. I want you to have this word coming out of your mouth. I want it to not depart out of your mouth. And YHWH told Joshua that the word should not depart from his from his mouth, not only his hay, which is his heart, that he was speaking it as you meditate on it, you're thinking about it, it's going over and over, turning over and over and over again in your mind. He said, but I wanted to also not only be in your hay, which is the spirit coming down, being drawn down, and it's ministering to your heart and your mind, but I want it also in your pay, where it's being uploaded in your mind and coming out of your mouth. Joshua's mouth must continually be speaking or uttering the word of YHWH, which are his divine instructions. Can y'all hear that today, saints? Can y'all hear what YHWH is saying? And he says, when that begins to happen, when that begins to take place, he said, then and only then will his way be made prosperous. And only then would he have good success. He would only have a prosperous and a successful way when this word would be in his heart, when it would be in his mouth, when it would come out of him. He said, that's how you're going to make your way prosperous, and that's how you're going to have good success. So if that was good for Joshua, and how many people know YHWH never changes? Wasn't he the same yesterday that he is today and that he's going to be tomorrow? So the same word that he gave Joshua in that time and season is the same word he's giving to us. Can y'all hear that, saints?
Yes.
So our declaration helps secure our inheritance. Our declaration helps secure our inheritance. Let me wait there one moment, saints. Hold on for 1 second. Our declaration helps secure our inheritance. Psalms 1 and 2. Come on, Elder, read that for us.
Use this word in the same way regarding the man who walks in Yahweh's blessings.
Here it is. Go ahead, read it.
But this delight is in the law of the Yahweh, and in his law doeth he meditate day and night.
Hallelujah. It says, but this delight is in the law of Yahweh, his delight. See, your delight has to be in the laws of Yahweh, in his instructions, is in his instructions. His law is his instructions for life. And it says in his instructions or in his law, does he meditate day and night? That's what he wanted Joshua to do. That's what he wanted David was doing. And that's what he wants us to do too. All his disciples and apostles, they all delighted in his law and they all meditated on it day and night, because that's how we get wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Come on, what did it say?
It says, and he shall be like, wait a minute, and he shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water.
Yes.
That brings forth his fruit in his season. His leaf shall not wither, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
It says that is the result. That's literally the result of a person that's meditating on that word. You're going to end up being like a tree planted by the rivers of water. You know a tree needs water. And when it gets them roots way down and all that water is watering that tree gonna grow up to be so tall. It said it brings forth fruit in his season. His leaf also shall not wither, because the tree is planted by the rivers of water. That means it's the endless supply of water and nutrients and everything that tree needs to keep growing and to stay flourishing. It says his leaf will not wither. No, your leaf ain't gonna wither when you stay connected to that word and stay in that river of his word. And whatsoever he doeth, it's going to prosper. It's going to prosper. This is the word for the kingdom of Yahweh, the kingdom of Yahdah that's headed by Yahweh. Whatever he does shall prosper. The righteous man or woman shall speak Yahweh's law day and night. He does not just read it or study it. He speaks it out loud, because there is power in speaking his word. Ooh-wee. Glory to the King of Israel. Boy, I'm getting excited in here.
Hallelujah.
There is power when you speak the word out loud. So we're not just reading it and studying it and just, talking about it. No, we're declaring it. We're making that word come out of our mouth and speaking it out loud, because there's power in that. Deuteronomy 6 and 4. It says, Shema Israel, Yahweh Eloheinu, Yahweh El-Kad. What does that mean? Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. Shema Israel, Yahweh Eloheinu, Yahweh El-Kad. So in other words, it's telling us to hear, Israel. We got to open up our ears to hear the instructions of Yahweh. And as we begin to hear the instructions of Yahweh, we're going to understand that Yahweh is one. He is one. He is one. Declarations can also shift our emotions. When you begin to declare the word, you may be frustrated, you may be burdened down, your heart may even be heavy. But when you begin to declare the word, it begins to shift you out of depression. It begins to shift you out of fear. It begins to shift you out of anxiety and being upset and being deceitful, lustful. It begins to shift these emotions, and you begin to look at this thing from YHWH's point of view, you'll begin to count it all joy. See, that's what they begin to write about. Man, I count it all joy when I fall into all of these diverse temptations. I count it all joy when I'm being talked about. I count it all joy when I'm being lied on. I count it all joy when things are not working out like I thought they were going to work out. I'm counting it all joy because I've read the end of the book, and I know the end of the book declares we win. Hallelujah. We win. We win. If we can get and make it and hold on, he says, he that endureth to the end shall be saved.
Yes.
And the salvation is being saved from our enemies and all of them that hate us. That's what true salvation is, to be saved from your enemies and to be saved from everybody that hates you. Hallelujah. Whether we are aware of it or not, we do a lot of self-talk in our heads almost continuously. We do a lot of self-talk. Even secular psychologists note that self-talk impacts our emotions. So if you're self-talking to yourself and you're always talking down to yourself, you're always talking about what you can't do or how you're not going to accomplish, and just talking that self-talk of negativity in your own mind. And sometimes we do that. We all have to admit that we do that. Don't you, saints? Don't you talk sometimes negatively, thoughts of doubt would come into your mind. And you'll start hearing those thoughts of doubt, and you'll start believing them. And then you'll start getting down about what it is that's going on in your mind.
Right.
It's called that self-talk, that self-talk. Studies have linked negative self-talk with higher levels of stress and lower levels of self-esteem. So when you have these negative things speaking to you in your head, in your mind, they're letting you know that you're at a high level of stress and you're at a low level of self-esteem. So that's what the word does. When you start reading that word, the word takes down the stress level and it begins to lift up the self-esteem level, because you begin to realize that I can do all things through Yeshua HaMashiach that strengthens me. You start believing in YHWH, that if he was able to open up the Red Sea for our ancient brothers and sisters, that he's able to do whatever it is, your Red Sea in your life. You start beginning to understand that, man, there was Hebrew boys that was in a fiery furnace, and they were the fire didn't harm them, the fire didn't burn them. So the fire of what I'm dealing with, the fire of what I'm going through, the fire of my situation, it won't burn me either. That's what happens when you begin to study and apply and begin to speak his word and meditate on it day and night, and begin to confess his word after you're meditating on it. It begins to take down stress, the high levels of stress, and it begins to lift up the lower levels of the self-esteem that you need in YHWH. Your self-image, your self-esteem, your who you are is hidden in YHWH, and you begin to realize, man, I am more than a conqueror. I am. You start talking like that in your mind. Hold on, I am more than a conqueror. I ain't defeated. The devil is a liar. What is this? I'm reading this word. I done found out that I'm the apple of his eye. I done found out I'm a holy priesthood, a royal nation, a peculiar people, to show forth the praises of him that has called us out of darkness. You mean to tell me he always causes me to triumph through Yeshua HaMashiach? Oh, man. You see, you start learning that word.
Right.
That word start talking to you. That start getting in your head louder than whatever negative things is going and floating in your mind. That's why it's important for us to meditate, saints.
Yes.
This can lead to decreased motivation as well as a greater feeling of helplessness. When you have those negative thoughts in your mind, it can decrease your motivation. When you allow negative thoughts to take root into your mind and you don't cast down imaginations, cast down self-doubting and defeating talk in your mind. Because that's why your mind is the battleground. Your mind mind is the battleground. That's where Satan starts the war. It don't start in your flesh. The battle starts in your mind. And you got to put on the helmet of salvation. But before you're able to put on the helmet of salvation, you got to make sure you got on the belt of truth first. And before you put on the belt of truth, you got to make sure that your feet have the peace with it, the gospel of peace. And before you get to that helmet of salvation, you got to make sure you have a breastplate of righteousness on. You got to have some righteousness going on and some righteous things happening in your life. And you got to take the shield of faith and the sword of the spirit. And then you can have put on the whole armor of YHWH so that you may be able to stand against the wicked one, against the evil one. All right. So,
All right.
declarations can shift our emotions. What else can declarations do, or speaking? Because we're in the declaration decade. Declarations can literally have power for life or death. You have the power of life and death in what you speak. You have the power of life and death in what you speak. Proverbs 18 and 20. Come on, Sister Tahila, read that. Proverbs chapter 18, verse 20. Come on, what it say? Uh-oh. Come on, Jeremiah, come on, read that. What it say? Proverbs 18 and 20. I thought I saw him get on, maybe he fell off. Come on, Elder, read that for us.
A man's belly shall be satisfied with the fruit of his mouth, and with the increase of his lips shall he be filled.
Woo. Elder, come on, read that again. Read that. Catch this, y'all. Catch this. Come on.
A man's belly shall be satisfied with the fruit of his mouth, and with the increase of his lips shall he be filled.
He let you know where the true satisfaction comes from. He said, man, your belly's going to be satisfied with the fruit of your mouth.
Right.
And you're going to get an increase when your lips be filled with that word and with that truth. That's what you're going to get an increase from. Are y'all hearing that today?
Yes.
My. Come on, Elder, what it say?
It says, death and life are in the power of the tongue, and they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof.
Woo! He said, death and life are in the power of the tongue, the power, the pay, and they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof. So the tongue is located inside of the pay. And there's a Hebrew word for tongue, but we won't get into that today. But the point of it is that you're able with your mouth to have life or death is in the power of what you speak and what you say. And they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof. So our tongue has power to release YHWH's life, whatever we are, whether we're conscious declaring of his word or truth, or through words issuing forth as expressions of our heart. As YHWH's children, we have the capacity to speak life. Even our actions have the power to combine with our words in speaking his life into the life of others. And that's what we have to know, and that's what we have to understand as the saints of the Most High, that we have power to speak the word of YHWH, and his word will begin to produce life in us. And as we begin to speak that word of life, we'll begin to speak life into others.
Yes.
And we know that his word is the truth. Thy law is an everlasting righteousness, and thy law is a truth. Thy righteousness is an everlasting righteousness, and thy law is the truth. You shall know the truth, and it shall what? It shall make you free. It's going to make you free when you know the truth. It's going to make you free. And we know that thy righteousness is an everlasting righteousness, and thy law is the truth. So that's what we speak and declare. So in this decade of the mouth, of the pay, Let us, number one, pay attention to our mouths and receive our inheritance. You're taking notes, write this down. In this decade of pay, let us, number one, pay attention to our mouths and receive our inheritance. Number two, let us shift our emotions. And number three, let us bring life to those that are around us. In this decade, giving us this decade to begin to speak the word. Let us pay attention to what we're saying with our mouth. Let's pay attention. Don't mess up and don't curse and don't talk yourself out of your own miracle that the Father is doing. It says pay attention. So we got to pay attention to what we're speaking and what we're saying. And when what you're saying ain't lining up with the word, you change it immediately.
Yes.
And you begin to shift your emotions and bring life to those that are around you.
Hallelujah.
Because when you have been illuminated with the word, and when that illumination is in you, when you begin to speak that word, you're going to begin to illuminate others. Also remember, my tongue shall utter your righteousness all day long. See, people want to change subjects and go to another subject. Can't we talk about something else? Every time I call you, every time I'm on the phone with you, you always talking about the word. Well, there ain't nothing else to talk about that's going to renew my mind. Ain't nothing worth talking about that's going to inspire my soul. Ain't nothing worth talking about that's going to actually cause me to begin to come to an understanding and become to revelation, and it's going to cause me to be illuminated by talking about his righteousness all day long. So Shabbat Shalom, saints. I hope y'all got something from that word.
Yes.
Hope y'all got something from that word. Which one, Sister Lori? This one?
Yes, sir.
You
I was
right?
writing down.
Oh, okay. In this decade, let us pay attention to our mouths and receive our inheritance. Shift our emotions and bring life to those around us. Y'all got something from that word today? I hope you did.
Yes. Yes.
I hope
Bless
you did. I hope you did. You
Yeah.
got that, Sister Lori? You still writing?
Yes, sir. One more second.
Okay, let me know when you finish. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Well, saints, I hope y'all enjoyed that word, because I sure did. If y'all didn't ate, I definitely ate. I definitely ate that word. I took me a bite of that. That's when the cooks say, man, I got to do a little taste test or something. Hey, you say that pumpkin pie there, Elder, you got? See,
Right.
you got to go and make sure it's right. You got to make sure those ingredients came together, right? You put the spoon in there, you give it a little taste. I need a little bit more of this. I need a little bit more of that. I need a little bit more of whatever the ingredients you use to make that thing just be the way it's supposed to. That's what this word has done for me today. As I